What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be breaking down Superman and Lois Season 1, Episode 1, titled Pilot. But before we get started, make sure that you guys like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment down below any other video ideas for me. So the wait is finally over. Superman and Lois has officially aired its first episode. So the episode starts off with Clark's origin story, him coming to Earth. I'm pretty sure all Superman shows start off with that. Then it shows a little bit of his childhood, his dad dying early in his life, and it just shows all of that leading up to where he is now. Now, the first suit we actually see Superman wear looks a little bit like the Kingdom Come Superman suit from Crisis on Infinite Earths, mixed with the original Superman comic suit. The S looks just like it does in the original Superman comics, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then that all adds up to Lois and Clark telling everyone that they're pregnant, they're having twins, all that stuff. But here's the thing, I really was surprised by the fact that Clark never mentioned that before Crisis on Infinite Earths, he was only a father to a newborn. I thought that was really interesting that they didn't mention that whatsoever. Then we see the first action type of scene where Superman saves the day once again from like a nuclear plant. Then we get a cool scene of Superman lifting a glacier. That was probably one of the coolest scenes we saw in the whole episode. And then all of that led up to the sneak peek scene we saw earlier of Superman talking to Sam Lane, or Lois Lane's father. Then we see the first scene of Clark talking to his kids, and I actually thought that was a really interesting scene because we've really never seen anything like this in the Arrowverse, so it was kind of cool to see something different for once. And also throughout the episode, Lois and Clark keep debating on whether or not they should tell their kids that Clark is Superman, and obviously they end up doing that. Then Clark actually gets fired from the Daily Planet, which we knew was probably going to happen, all of that being caused by Morgan Edge, who is set to be somewhat of a villain this season. So then Clark's mother ends up dying from a stroke. Once I saw that she was living in the Smallville house earlier in the episode, I knew that this was probably going to happen in order for Clark and his family to move back out to Smallville. We've known that they were going to move back out to Smallville for probably months now, so that was expected. Then we get our first scene of Lana Lang and her family at Clark's mother's funeral. I thought that was pretty interesting, obviously, because a lot of us that are watching Superman and Lois have watched Smallville in the past. Obviously, Lana Lang was a major character on that TV show, so that's why that scene was more interesting than others would have thought. So here's where the really interesting stuff starts to go down. So Jordan climbs a ladder in the barn and ends up falling down. While he's on the ground, some metal tubes fall on top of him and Jonathan tries to protect him, but when they are brought out, they aren't even really injured, possibly because one of them has powers. We're all assuming that it was going to be Jonathan that ends up having these powers, obviously because there was a version of Superboy named John Kent. So then the boys get suspicious about why they weren't badly injured from the fall, which we all thought might happen. So we know Sam Lane is supposed to be somewhat of a villain this season, however in the first episode he doesn't seem like much of a villain whatsoever. That is until Sam shows Clark a picture and a message of some type of villain, and we've all been calling this villain the Stranger. So anyways, Sam Lane wanted Clark to fight the Stranger, but then Clark refuses. So that is possibly why Sam Lane turns into somewhat of a villain this season. Maybe because the Stranger causes havoc everywhere, and Sam Lane says, well, if you just fight him when I wanted you to fight him, then we wouldn't have this problem, and then Sam Lane just ends up hating Superman. Something along the lines of that could happen. So the boys get really suspicious of all the stuff that's been going on, so they find an underground door in the barn that leads to where Clark's Kryptonian spaceship was being kept. They take a shard-looking object out of the spaceship, not knowing what it is. So then they decide to confront Clark about it, and I found it kind of confusing that they really didn't have this shard object appear really at all in the episode going forward, so maybe it just really didn't matter that much. So then Clark tells his sons about his true origins in Krypton and that he was Superman. They don't believe him initially, so he flies and lifts a car to prove it to them. Then a big fight broke out between Clark and his kids because he didn't tell them who he was before. Then after that, Superman faces off with the Stranger, who first appears as invisible, it seemed like. Now, the Stranger says, "We knew each other well on your planet." That initially made me think it could be Brainiac, as he tried to take over Krypton multiple times in the past, but then I realized that that is a far, far leap, and it obviously ended up being wrong. Then Jordan and Jonathan get in a fist fight at a party while Superman fights the Stranger in an intense sky battle. This scene was awesome to see. Both these scenes were just great scenes. The Stranger keeps telling Superman that he knows everything about him and he knows his weakness. Then we see that Jordan is actually the one who has powers, as we see him use heat vision and not Jonathan like we were all thinking. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Obviously, they're not taking the comic book route with this, unless Jonathan can get powers in the future, but Jordan Kent is looking like he's the one that's going to become Superboy. Then the Stranger basically defeats Superman with kryptonite, obviously because he said he knows his weakness, he knows everything about him. Then he drops him back down to Earth through the atmosphere. Obviously, they were fighting in space. We saw that scene in the trailer. Superman is able to get the kryptonite out before he hits the ground, though. This is actually a really great fight scene for the first episode of Superman and Lois. I'm really looking forward to more fight scenes between Superman and this alternate version of Lex Luthor. So yeah, then Clark and Lois decide on moving to Smallville. Well, that's their decision. At least they give their kids the chance to think about it as well. Their main reason for moving to Smallville is obviously because of Jordan's powers. Just like when Clark grew up on that same farm with powers of his own, I guess it was just easier for his parents to like control him and teach him about his abilities. Then at the end, we get another look at the Stranger. This is a great scene right here, and we see that it is confirmed this is another version of Lex Luthor from another Earth or dimension. So I'm really looking forward to more of this in episode 2. But yeah, I'd say that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to comment your thoughts on this video down below, as well as your thoughts on the first episode of Superman and Lois. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.